Welcome back, everybody. I have something new today. I would like to try to begin a trend with everybody's help. This is a presentation of 9 of my favorite video games in a 3x3 grid. Now, going back over a decade, I've seen stuff like this online, but people literally just put their 9 favorite video games in a 3x3 arrangement. There's nothing special about it, it's just your 9 favorite games. And I've already covered that in my top 50 games of all time. Of course, it's changed since then, but I'll revisit that in the future. So what I wanted to do today is take that idea and transform it. And what I want from all of you, hopefully if you're not too shy, I mean, if you are, you could just participate in the comments section, but I would like everybody with a YouTube channel to make a video in the same vein as this one. And you'll see exactly what I do, and I can give some examples later on. So the two axes that I have here for my little grid are points in time in my life. I have my childhood, adolescence, and adulthood on one side of the graph, and then I have different platforms on the other side of the graph. So I have console, PC, and handheld. And then anywhere that those columns and rows intersect, of course, I have to pick a video game that represents that point in my life on a particular platform, console, handheld, or PC. You can do this any way you want. If you only like one genre of video game, let's just say strategy games, you could do real-time strategy games, turn-based strategy games, tactical strategy games. You get it, right? If you are a fan of all the gaming companies, you could do Nintendo, Sony, Xbox. You don't have to do points in your life. You could do those 3 consoles, and you could do platformers, shooters, adventure games. You get it, right? Have some fun. Hopefully this inspires you and you will make your own video on the topic. So let me begin, that's enough of an explanation, with my childhood handheld favorite, Pokemon Yellow. And I suppose just a little bit more instruction. I'm not going to waste too much time explaining what the games are because I chose to pick 3 different points in my life. I'll just give the significance and why these games are my favorites from those points in my life. So I was a huge Pokemon fan as a kid. I had the teal Game Boy, I had Pokemon Red, and I was all about catching them all and training my favorites and having a really strong party with level 100s. This game had everything without the need for multiplayer though. So as you're going through your adventure, and of course Pikachu was my favorite Pokemon, I had a chance to catch or to obtain the remaining Kanto starters on my own. Didn't require multiplayer to have Charizard, Venusaur, and Blastoise in my party with Pikachu, and then 2 more of my other favorite Pokemon. So this compared to Gold, Silver, and Crystal, I'm picking it as my favorite from my childhood just because of, well, it focusing on Pikachu, I guess. Not only that, I also had some accessory media. I had something called the Pokemon Adventure Handbook. I had a couple copies of the Pokemon Adventures manga, although those were just little samples actually in English. Maybe at some point I can dig those up and I can show you some of my Pokemon media that is not the video games, but Pokemon, because it was my favorite series as a kid and because Pikachu was my favorite Pokemon, that is the winner for childhood handhelds. How about childhood on PC? Don't have the physical copy here. The Incredible Machine 3. This is a game that I did talk about in my top 50 games of all time, and this one really got me because I was able to experiment and get creative and solve puzzles that seemed like they were very difficult, although in reality they probably weren't so bad, and I probably had no chance of solving the actual difficult puzzles. Not only that, but I have these memories that all kind of blend together of playing our earliest home computer, going to my dad's office at work, sitting in his big executive chair, and just messing around on his computer there. I feel like at some point in time, he may have had a game or 2 installed on there. Probably wasn't the Incredible Machine, but again, all these memories kind of swirl around when I think of PC gaming during my childhood. Of course, I was very young at the time, and the Incredible Machine 3 was one of the earliest games that I would have played before getting on to, let's say, some Blizzard titles, for example. Next, childhood console favorite. Well, some of you might be able to get this. I'm sticking to the NES. So in this particular instance with my childhood, I'm staying really young. I didn't want to extend it too far, although I could have, and you can as well. I have Super Mario Bros. 3. If you had an NES growing up, then this is probably a very familiar story for you. How many of you would try to beat a game together? You got the family around the TV, it's getting late at night, and you know that you're just not going to beat it before you have to go to bed. And so what do? You just leave the console on and running, and you turn the TV off, and you'll all get to it the next day. I can't tell you how many times we probably did that trying to beat this game. And honestly, I can't even tell you if we beat this game without the help of any cheats or the Game Genie. I've beaten it again recently, and I think I beat it maybe around university, but the memories in my childhood, the whole family sitting around the TV, taking turns trying to play it, also the little multiplayer game where you press on the start logo on any world, and then you have the classic Mario Bros battling each other with Mario and Luigi. A lot of good memories there. Now we can move on to my adolescence, and we'll keep the same order, why not? Handheld, Mario Kart DS. There were a few options, but I'm going with this one again because of the multiplayer experience, similar to kind of what I just described with Super Mario Bros. But this was way wilder. This was us being out of control in high school. We were very fortunate that our civics and careers class was a bird course. It probably says a lot more about the school and the curriculum than it does about us, but it was a joke course. Even back then in high school, you could get stuff like this. Usually it's something reserved for colleges and universities, but anyways, that's what it was. And so we would just all have our DSs, all have Mario Kart DS. There were around 6 or 8 of us, and we would connect online and just play each other during class. And as long as we weren't laughing or distracting other people, our teacher was okay with it. Now, of course, when it was time for tests, we had to participate and do well on our tests, and we did because it really was a joke course. But man, I'm pretty sure we played this game more in school than we did outside of school. The great things that public education can get you, huh? And I just want to add right now, one of the reasons why I still prefer Mario Kart DS over Mario Kart 8, in some ways, is because of the snaking. Snaking was something that really set people apart back when we played in high school. Of course, everyone was practicing and getting good at it at some point, but I kind of missed that different skill that was available to you when I played Mario Kart 8. All right, adolescence, PC games. I don't have a physical copy here. This is also left behind with my copy of The Incredible Machine 3. StarCraft Brood War. I could have gone to StarCraft 2 with Wings of Liberty. I was still a teenager when I played that game. But StarCraft Brood War, when I think about it and all the memories that are involved with that one, I think of MLG, and I've talked about that before, how that was popular at the time, and you had your Western esports starting up with your Call of Duties and your Halos, and then you had the Korean scene, and you had StarCraft Brood War over there. And for me, I was absorbing all of it, watching all of it, trying to get good at all of these different games. StarCraft Brood War was a lot of fun, though, because there were things happening in those games that, if you can imagine them, then there's a pro player out there who could make them a reality. For example, you're facing somebody in a one-on-one, and you say, okay, I'm going to drop some units behind his minerals, and I'm going to advance my army, and I'm going to have a little flank that sandwiches his army, that backstabs his army when he engages me. 3 different control groups, and pro players were able to do that. And they were setting traps, and they were using units like you've never seen before. And I was seeing all these custom maps being made for the pro scene. And I love map making, and I love things of that nature. StarCraft Brood War and the whole professional scene had all of that stuff. So for me, even though I wasn't that good at the game, and I didn't play it competitively or seriously that much on my own, I still consider it a favorite from my teenage years. Now on console, I do have a physical here, Halo 3. And you can hear that. Unfortunately, one of the discs is rolling around in there. I don't know how it just kind of came unglued. The little fastener came unglued for it. But anyways, Halo 3, no surprise. If this is a favorite of mine, then you can imagine LAN parties. Lots of people playing. In fact, a lot of those same people who I was playing this game with. So this was what we played in school, and then this is what we played on weekends. And we would go to somebody's basement, get 2 or 3 Xboxes together, try to face the TVs away from each other, And everybody had different roles in the games that we played. Usually we didn't play Slayer. We didn't try to go for kills because there were some skill imbalances there. But doing things like capture the flag were so much fun because you could have people who weren't as good at shooting be dedicated flag bearers or flag carriers. And then anyone else who was good with a sniper rifle or a power weapon or whatever, they could try to be the bodyguards. They could try to be the assaulters. So, talking about Halo 3 probably deserves its own video, as I'm sure it does for so many of you out there. I will leave it at that because I'm sure you can fill in a lot of the blanks with your imagination. And like I mentioned with StarCraft, at the time the esports thing was really getting big. MLG and Halo 3 were a match made in heaven, and I love tuning into those things. Again, I tried to get up to that level, never quite managed it. Moving on now to my adulthood and handheld. No, so I don't have any of these physical copies. I have one physical copy here later. My favorite handheld game in my adulthood is probably Puzzle and Dragons Super Mario Bros. Edition. And that is because this game, it nailed the Match 3 gameplay. I think this is based on Bejeweled. Of course, it's based on Puzzle and Dragons, but I think that is loosely based on Bejeweled, which I haven't played. This is a game where you're dragging your stylus around and you're trying to match different elemental orbs to fire off attacks towards the enemies. And as you're playing the game, there's this great presentation with all of this Mario fanfare. You've got Mario and Luigi in their various forms, Fire Flower, Ice Flower, etc. You've got different monsters and enemies that you can actually have in your party, Goombas and Koopas and the Para-Koopas and all of those different versions of them. And so it's just a lot of fun going on this sort of adventure in a very heavily inspired Mario world. There's my Canadian coming out, Mario instead of Mario. Sorry, I try to consistently say Mario now for the Americans and the rest of the world, but I grew up saying Mario. Anyways, it's a really fun puzzle game. It did the Mario fanfare amazingly, and I've recommended this game before. If you like puzzle games or if you want to see another excellent Mario spin-off, then check out Puzzle and Dragons Super Mario Bros. Edition. And in my opinion, this is the better of the two games in the Puzzle and Dragons Z and Puzzle and Dragons Super Mario Bros. Edition dual pack. So there you go. Now on PC, The Witcher 3. This is a game that defines one of my Christmas vacations. I can't remember which one exactly. It was one during university. I don't know, third year, fourth year. I even did a fifth year, which was, university was not a good time. But when I had my breaks and I got to play games like The Witcher, that was pretty good. And so I played The Witcher 1. I really enjoyed it. I love that old school RPG feeling and running around the world, collecting these random items, but having uses in quests and potion making. The Witcher 2, a little bit of a disappointment, but still a good game overall. And then The Witcher 3. I was a little late on the bandwagon here, but I really loved it. And in fact, I think I could appreciate it more than a lot of people who only got into the Witcher series with The Witcher 3. There was so much build-up in the characters and their arcs, and you could see the continuations of most of them. Not all, but most of them when you got to The Witcher 3. Geralt, at this point, had become one of my favorite characters in gaming. And yeah, it's just a very simple and classic holiday vacation where, you go socialize with the family a little bit, and then you go up to your room and you just game and game and game. Let's finish off now with my favorite console game from adulthood. For some of you, this is no surprise, The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. What can I say? It did Breath of the Wild, but better. It's different though, and it is worth playing both games. I want to make that very clear. Some people say this is just Breath of the Wild 2, and they didn't really change enough to make it different. But you have a couple additional layers of Hyrule to explore, and they're not fully fleshed out, they could have done more with them. Okay, you still have a couple new layers. And what they did with the base layer, or the ground level of Hyrule, is they hollowed out a lot of the mountains to make use of the Ascend ability, where you can go through mountains. And they did various changes to the geography like that. The abilities, though, Fuse is probably my favorite. I know a lot of people think of Ultra Hand and making these little creations and these robots, but Fuse was probably the most fun for me, doing these different arrow combinations, putting things on your shields, etc. So, Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, if you want to know more of what I have to say about it, then you could just check out my Tears of the Kingdom playlist on the channel. I got completely absorbed in the game. I dumped like 200 hours into it to play it from start to finish and to go Korok hunting and all this stuff. And because I was enjoying it so much and because I had this Breath of the Wild experience, I decided, let me try to help people out in their adventure here. Let me try to help people enjoy this game as much as I do. And so I did a tip series as well. So yeah, there you go. Those are 9 of my favorite games. And to make it a little more interesting, I plucked them from various categories, both in, well, not genres today actually, but in platforms and from different points in my life. So again, please, I encourage you to make one of these videos for yourself. And again, to give you some examples, you could do different genres. You could do different game series. You could do a timeline or different points in your life like I did. You could do the different platforms and consoles and so many more ideas. I'm going to consider making one of these per year as long as I can mix and match it and throw some different games on there. I think I'll do one of these per year. And every time I do, I'm hoping to get some video engagement from you guys as well. So that's it. And don't, feel like you have to make this as long as I did. I feel like I talked a little bit longer than I probably had to. If you just want to talk about each game for 1 or 2 minutes, that's plenty. So there you go. My 3x3 list of favorite video games. Some of them anyways. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope to read a lot of your comments in the comment section. And of course, I'm hoping to watch a lot of your videos as well. Bye for now.